It was the same way every Halloween. An awkward witch's brew of embarrassment, disappointment, and frustration. This year would be no different. The boy was not very creative, nor good with his hands, as was demonstrated by the shabby state of his hand-fashioned Halloween costume. October 31st was supposed to be a night of tricks or treats, but the boy knew that his miserable failure of a costume was elicit only laughter and ridicule. The boy caught up with his friends, and they canvassed the neighborhood door to door, shouting tricks or treats. Candy, chocolates, apples, treats of all kinds flew into the buckets and sacks carried by the children. But for the boy, it was the same at every house. The same as last year, the same as the year before. The gnawing sensation in his gut was a twisting blade each time a trick thudded into his sack. The sack grew heavier and heavier as the evening progressed, as heaviness pressed against his eyes and his mind and in his gut. The party that followed the tricks or treats was a lively one. One kid, the talented one whom all the girls said was cute, played the piano. There was a washtub of water, apples floating languidly, ready to be plucked. There were Halloween games. The other children laughed, played, and squealed with delight, each having a marvelous time. But the boy merely observed, a tattered spectre in a low-rent costume. By and by, the children emptied their pails and sacks, spreading their candy on the floor next to the piano. A rainbow of colors, myriad shapes and sizes of reds and greens and blues and violets. Lollipops, gumdrops, wax lips, licorice, and even the occasional apple or orange were splayed upon the floor. The children gluttonously delved into their treasures. The boy, sitting alone in a corner, emptied his own sack onto the floor, anger and disappointment welling up within him. Before him, on the floor, were a pile of cold, soulless rocks. The boy counted them solemnly. One by one they mocked him with their collective presence. There was one rock for each kid at the party, he realized. The boy held one in his hand, feeling its cold weight, the dark stone whispering dread into the blackness of his confused mind. The boy approached the kid nearest him, who sat cross-legged on the floor examining a multicolored lollipop. Without hesitation, without mercy or even a second thought, the boy raised high his hand and struck out with uncommon violence. The kid toppled over. The boy continued to strike over and over with unbridled rage. When he stopped, breathless, he noticed that the child's skull above the left eye socket had been crushed in like a partially deflated basketball. Blood oozed over the kid's face and was splattered on the little blue blanket bunched up at the kid's side. The boy turned to the other children, unsuspecting, and one by one enacted his revenge. The blows were merciless, violent, unending. Years of disappointment and humiliation simmered and then boiled over as the boy crushed the skulls of the other kids at the party. One by one, skull by skull, rock by soulless rock. When it was over, he gathered up their sacks and their pails, and he gathered up all the candy that had been spread upon the floor, even those candies splattered with their blood. He made his way silently to the front door. The boy paused and looked back at the carnage he had rendered, and it moved him not. Nothing stirred now in his soul. No disappointment, no regret, not even the intense rage that had moments ago possessed him. He was numb now, numb but determined. In his pocket there remained a single stone. Yes, This one was the heaviest of them all. The boy drifted stealthily into the nighttime, the final rock clutched in his hand, in search of his dog.
Just use the keyboard.